couple years ago, I went to the woods by myself. Spent 4 days in the woods by myself, no tent, 2 gallons of water, no food, and I had a conversation with God and nature, and I faced a bunch of fears. One being in the middle of the woods by myself at night
with no tent.
With no tent,
no
right?
fire,
right? Nothing.
Nothing.
It was wild and scary and interesting and so beautiful. And the big lesson there was, it's time to come back home, right? What got you to the dance, what got you to be what people know as Preston Smiles, is that beautiful, kind heart that is spirit-led. And you took that and packaged it and made it warrior-led. And like that, you used your warrior energy to build. But we're calling you back home. We're gonna let the spirit part of you lead first, and we'll still have the king and the warrior and all the other parts of you, but we're gonna have the spirit one lead. And I got the hit that I needed to write this book, Spiritual Millionaire.
Today on the show, we have Preston Smiles. We talk about healing the nervous system so that you can experience more abundance and more money in your life. This is a guy I absolutely love, and his energy is contagious. So how do you expand your capacity? Like with husband, father, leader, author, speaker, mentor, coach, how do you continue to expand your threshold, your capacity?
Oh man, there's so many things, but the main one is breath, right? Just making sure that in the quote unquote stressful moments, I relieve my body, because anytime we are in uncertainty, the body, which has its own intelligence, goes into these states: fight, flight, freeze, and appease or fawn is an added one. And those states are super important if one of those zebras out there starts to chase me down the road, right? Yeah. Or one of those longhorns accidentally turns around and comes for me. I need those states.
Yeah.
But I don't need them when I just get an email that the property tax is now $40,000 instead of 10. You know, like I don't necessarily need that. And so for me, it's like, can I breathe in this moment? Can I expand in the face of what my ego says to contract in? And a big example, and I know you know this because you're living it yourself. I have 4 kids under 6. It's pure chaos in our house all the time. Somebody's always fighting, spilling something, knocking a thing over, asking for this. You know, it's 6 a.m. this morning, and my son's like, I want a cookie. And I'm like, bro, we're not eating a cookie at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I want a cookie, right? And he knows that if he screams loud enough, that he can sort of control the whole thing, because we don't want him to wake everyone else up.
Yep.
And I'm like, no cookie, homie, right? But the context of no cookie, daddy is the pillar, but I'm not mad at you.
Yeah.
Right? There's a very different energy to be angry at my kid for just having desires than it is for me to say, this is a no, and I see you, little sucker.
Yeah.
Right?
You're clever. You're smart.
Yes.
I love what you're doing. No cookie.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's a lot of things. I will say one more thing. One of the biggest ways to create capacity is to address withholds, shame, and guilt. Those 3 things will fill up a space. The body's like a living library, and it stores everything we've ever been through. And as we clear the withholds, so a withhold would be, let's say, you have a friend, or let's say someone's partnership, right? You said we were going to watch this Netflix show, but you fell asleep 3 nights in a row, right? And I feel neglected. Well, if I don't share that, or that person doesn't share that with their partner, that's a withhold. Now that's stuck in the body. It's living there, and it's this unspoken tension that's sitting in the space. So, okay, now that's more dense energy. Then you add on top of that any of the shame guilt that I might experience from childhood stuff, stuff I did in college that I'm not proud of, any of that stuff that's sitting in the space, it blocks our capacity for like experiencing and expressing joy. And to me, that's why we're here.
Don't you think that we learn to withhold, though, like the experiences and the traumas that we've had in our life, even in our relationships, our partnerships, how they've responded in the past, that causes that withhold to become even stronger because we don't want to get that same response that we got the last time.
Yep. That makes technical sense.
Yeah.
And it is the most ineffective way to live.
Correct.
Because we are in and out beings, right? I keep drinking this water. At some point, this sucker has to come out of me, right? I eat some food. It's got to come out. I have something occur. If I don't express it, it clogs the pipes. And the more the pipes are clogged, the less flow. And to me, we are flow state creative beings. And, you know, I like to say the fruit doesn't belong to the tree. Right? The fruit belongs to the ecosystem. It belongs to the animals and the worms and everything else that's going to come along. And so that's true for us too, right? My love isn't just for me. My joy, my expression, my power isn't just for me. It's for the ecosystem. Well, I block the ecosystem. I block the gift if I'm withholding.
Right.
So yeah, man.
So you just let things flow
to the degree that I can. You're not wrong. Like dude. To me, the biggest work in the world is in relationship.
Yes.
Like people are like, oh, is it hard having kids? No, kids are awesome. Kids are easy. Yeah. It's unconditional love. Yeah. They do crazy stuff. And I'm like, I still want to bite your face.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's the relationship. It's marriage that is the craziest, most interesting thing that I've ever been in. And it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. And it's also one of the most rewarding. Because we tend to attract partners who embody some shadow aspect of us that we wish we were, or some beautiful aspect of us that we wish we were. And initially, the initial attraction, that's awesome. But then that same thing that we thought was amazing then becomes annoying. Right? And it's like, you're doing that again.
Yeah.
Oh, you're cracking your dad joke again? Nice. Right? Like that thing.
Yeah.
Right? And so to love a person past the personality is huge. To vulnerably share a desire, big vulnerable thing for me was asking for hugs and kisses from my wife. You know, we grew up completely different. That was like always in my family, and her family, it wasn't like that. And so she had enough course about relationships and how those work, and I have enough course about relationships and how those work. And those two visions were clashing. And I used to think to myself, dude, you're a little bitch. Don't ask. Yeah. If she wanted to give you one, she would. But the truth is like I was setting her up to lose. That's a weak ass move of me to withhold the part of me that has a desire to be hugged by my wife out of a fear and inside of a construct. It's like a American construct, right? You gotta be tough. Yeah. Men don't need hugs. Yeah. Bullshit. Yeah. Who says I need a hug? I know I do. I'm literally wanting a hug. Right. So that's a lie. And I can buy into the American construct or the Western construct and pretend to be tough. But what does that do to our relationship over time? Right now we're just distant roommates. Yeah. And so I've had to really work on, again, expanding where my ego mind says contract. Right? I desire a hug. The ego mind says, don't be a bitch, bro. Absolutely not. Figure it out somewhere else. Contraction. The soul, the higher self says, no, this is what you came here for. Right? This is why you chose her. So you could heal the part of you. You were an out of the way kid as a child. And now it's playing out again. You're trying to be an out of the way husband. Homie, it's okay for you to have needs. Yeah. It's okay. You hold everybody. Who's going to hold you? Yeah. Like, that's huge, bro.
So you just started asking.
I started asking.
And then it was easy for her to deliver because she knew what you needed.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's like common sense.
Yeah.
And yet, so many of us make it bigger than what it is. And everybody's got 10 of those right now.
The way you get to the life you desire is by getting in rooms you don't think you deserve to be into. And this is an opportunity for you to get into a room that most oftentimes in the year you will not have the ability to get into. The Austin Entrepreneurial Summit powered by GoBundance is the only time we open the doors of GoBundance to the public. This event is packed with some powerful speakers and incredible people from the GoBundance community that will pour into you on your journey of success and help you achieve the life you desire. Service is the Trojan horse to knowledge, and if you want the opportunity to take your life to the next level, do yourself a service and sign up for this event. See you in Austin in May. What did you witness growing up as marriage, partnership, relationship? What did you see as a child?
Nothing awesome.
Nothing awesome.
No. I'd say what I witnessed is what probably most of our sort of Western relationships look like, which was sort of microwave dinners. And because I'm 45, I grew up during a time, they call us the least parented generation in human history, the latchkey kids. So I had no rules. No one was ever home. I was 6 years old walking home from school by myself, and 7 miles. Anybody could have just came and scooped me up.
No cell phones.
Nothing, bro. They could have killed me, right? They didn't care.
Yeah. And
so, my sister making microwave dinners for me and me jumping off the roof and playing with the boys and I was just out. And my parents were so stressed out from their lives and all the demons that they were battling and the beautiful things that they just didn't have space for us. And kids adapt. All kids adapt. And so, because we're all reaching towards love, like plants reach towards the sun. And so if you're stressed out, then me being an out of the way kid, that might get me more love.
Yeah.
If you're depressed, and me being a cheerer-upper, funny kid, that might get me more love. If you are checked out, then me being a bully at school and fucking shit up might get you to pay attention to me. And so children adapt to get the attention of their caretakers or the lack thereof, right? If it's dangerous in the house, I work with people, and I think you know this, I've been leading workshops for 10 years plus, helping people move through stuff with the body, right? Nervous system, trauma, somatic work. And, people will come and they'll say, I'm just shy. I'm just like a really shy person. And I'm like, shy isn't who you are. Shy is who you became as a child to stay safe. And that is no longer necessary, which is why you walked in this room. Because there's a part of you that knows that mask that you've been wearing since childhood. It's safe, but your body doesn't know it's safe.
Right.
So you keep the mask on and you don't know who you are without the mask. That's why they walk into our rooms, because they know we're going to uppercut them in every single way until the mask is off and what's left is them.
And removing the mask, first they have to actually admit that there's a mask, right? How do you get them to do that?
That's easy peasy, man. I think most people know they're bullshitting themselves.
Yeah.
Like we know.
Yeah.
I really recently stepped into like the health journey. And even this morning, right, I was going to make some breakfast, and I'm really good at listening to that internal voice, right? The true one. Because there's the inner critic or the inner roommate, and then there's the true voice, the one that's guiding, guarding, and protecting. And I went to go grab this bacon, and the voice said, "Bro, don't do that." And I was like, "Oh, but I want the bacon," right? And I'm going back and forth. You ever debated in your head?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, "Bro, I just want the bacon. Yeah. Can I get the bacon?" You know what I'm saying? Can a brother get the bacon?
Yeah.
Right? And the voice was like, "Nah, man, you said you're committed. Put the fucking bacon down." And so I just put it back down and made something else, right?
Yeah.
So I know when I'm bullshitting myself. People know.
Right.
And when Often one of the best ways that people figure out they have mask on is when they get around people who don't.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people see some of my content online and they're maybe initially triggered by me. They're like, why is he so boisterous and big and whatever, all the things. And then they start to realize like, oh, it's because that dude's freer than I am.
Mm.
Right? For me, I often say I find myself to be one of the richest people in the room, not because of money, but because of the work that I've been willing to do to free myself so that I can love my kids and love humanity and be present to the presence of God in ways that I used to not be able to.
Mm.
I know what it feels like to hate yourself, and I love the dog shit out of myself right now. And it's so beautiful. And because I've been down both of those roads, I can see it in other people easily. And they know it. Right? I can sit in a room with a bunch of people who, oh, look how big my dick is. Oh, you see me? Oh, look at my bank account, right? And they'll go, fuck, it's not working.
Yeah.
This guy, this is not the thing that's going to put us above him, right? And so then once we stop jockeying for power, then it's like, well, who are we? And bro, let me just take a moment. One of my favorite things about you is that. It's that you don't jockey. You just be, right? Yeah. From the fucking gate. Every time I've ever been around you, I'm like, this guy's just him, right? Just love in a space, doing your thing. You got your own faults, right?
Yeah,
you fucked up too.
Of course, couple.
Yeah,
a couple.
Right? But like, I love when dudes like you make it and like get all the riches and have all the success, because that is what our society needs right now. We need demonstrations of integrous, powerful, loving, connected men.
Yeah.
And for too long, the marketing nerds have been running the show. They're good at marketing, but they don't have any embodiment, right? They're not actually real men.
Yeah.
It's a facade. It's a show, right? And I'm all for, like, I pulled up in the G-Wagon, dude. I love stuff.
Yeah.
But that shit doesn't define who I am, right? You could take that all away and I'd still be a monster. Right?
Yeah, and I think one of the most beautiful things about men when they achieve success, or women when they achieve success, is most people do it through servant leadership. A lot of people think the way to get to the top or the way to achieve the life I want is I got to squash everybody below me, walk all over them.
So weak.
And when I watch you lead, when I watch you communicate on social media, when I watch you communicate at a party, it's always about, how can I serve? How can I serve? How can I serve?
Yeah.
What has that servant leadership done for you in your life?
Oh, man. It's everything. Literally everything. It's wild because I didn't do it on purpose. It's just who I am.
Yeah.
And it came from a wound initially, right? Because I was placed in special education and sort of like I became like a throwaway kid in society's eyes. There's a level of empathy and compassion you have once you've been a throwaway person.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, my mom told me this story recently, and I'm like, wow, that's actually dope. She said, I was graduating from 6th grade, and they had this award, and there's like, you know, a bunch of people were up for it, and I basically won this kindness award, right? And she said when they called my name, all of the Down syndrome kids and the like mentally ill children stood up and like clapped and screamed, and all the parents were like, whoa. And it was this like big deal at the school. And then she said after, the teachers came up to her and they were like, hey, you know, Preston gets in trouble sometimes, but what he gets in trouble for is when the regular kids bully the other kids, he jumps in the middle and he fights for them. And my mom said she had this super proud moment of like, wow, I did not know that's who my kid was, right? And like, I've been like that ever since. And what's beautiful that is, I don't know, I'm getting emotional about this. What's beautiful is the reward because I live a pretty amazing life, bro. Um, for a long time, in my mind, my inner critic would say, amazing lives are for the smart people.
Mm.
You're not one of them. Rich people get lucky and get people who help them and like build them up. But you don't have that. You don't come from in that, right? And what's been amazing is that at some point I went, okay, if nobody's coming to save me, I got to save me, but I'm not going to compromise the part of me that will always help anybody in need and see all people as my equal. And I had this thing that I had on my heart in LA, and it was the Sandy Hook school shooting. And you can look this up, and if your podcast editors want to do a side-by-side while I'm talking about it, you can see it. The Sandy Hook school shooting happened, and I was so moved by it that I was like, I'm giving it a week and a half, and I'm marching on Hollywood. Whoever wants to come, show up. But I'm going to sing the Beatles song, All You Need Is Love, and we're going to prove to the world that love is more potent than hate. Well, this is back in the days before Instagram and all that kind of stuff. There was one Facebook page that was created, and it said maybe 80 people would come. Bro, like 1,000 people came.
Wow.
They had to bring out police helicopters. They had to shut down Hollywood Boulevard.
Wow.
And it was all of us just marching down the street. And you'll see in the video, because people captured it, at some point somebody picked me up and put me on their shoulders. And I had a sign in my hand that said, this is for those kids. And that was one of those moments where I was like, oh, this is kind of what happens when I just serve and like follow what's true for me. I don't have to figure it all out. I don't have to know it all. And Martin Luther King has a quote, you don't have to know, you just have to know the knower. And I've been God-led for quite a while. And for a little bit, I sort of took my eyes off of it, but I'm back again and in a major way. And it's been really beautiful, man.
Why do you think you kind of deviated from it?
I think I got drunk on the idea of making it happen instead of making it welcome.
Yeah.
I think that I started to notice that there was a whole business that could occur if I just played the game. And I looked at other people playing the game, and I started copying what they were doing. And so I deviated from the truth of my being, and I started going off. And it still produced, and it was beautiful to a degree, but it never felt like how it used to feel.
Yeah.
And then a couple years ago, I went to the woods by myself. Spent 4 days in the woods by myself, no tent, 2 gallons of water, no food. And I had a conversation with God and nature. And I faced a bunch of fears, one being in the middle of the woods by myself at night.
With no tent.
With no tent.
No
right?
fire.
Right, nothing.
Nothing.
It was wild and scary and interesting and so beautiful. And the big lesson there was, it's time to come back home, right? What got you to the dance, what got you to be what people know as Preston Smiles, is that beautiful, kind heart that is spirit-led. And you took that and packaged it and made it warrior-led. And like that, you used your warrior energy to build. But we're calling you back home. We're gonna let the spirit part of you lead first, and we'll still have the king and the warrior and all the other parts of you, but we're gonna have the spirit one lead. And I got the hit that I needed to write this book, Spiritual Millionaire. And the craziest part is, as I'm writing the book, one of my philosophies is elevation requires separation. Right? You can't have both. You can't keep your old life and have the new one.
Yeah.
Can't hold on to the side of the pool and swim. Something's got to give. And so I realized that for the time it would take for me to write this book, I had to give up a bunch of stuff. And while I did that, everything sort of crashed. And I started making the least amount of money I had in 10 years, right? While I'm writing this book.
Yeah.
So I'm writing a book about money, abundance, and Spirit's like, let's see how abundant you are. Let's see if you can live these principles when you're at your lowest. And it got to the point where I had to lay off about 7 employees.
Wow.
And here's the craziest part, bro. I get them all on the call, and I explain what's happening. I said, hey, we'll swing back around when it's time. But right now, I need to let all of you go. You know what they said? Perfect. You don't pay us, but we still work for you.
Wow.
And they stayed. Wow. They stayed. And they kept working.
Wow.
Without pay. And that was another moment where I was like, they were like, you don't get it. You're not just our boss. You don't just pay our bills. You've helped us with our life. You've been a demonstration. You've been a father figure. You've taught us stuff that is invaluable. You think we're going to leave because of some thousands of dollars? Absolutely not.
Wow.
And they just stayed. And then I got back on track, and then I just paid them.
So then once the book came out, or once you got
Yeah.
done writing the book, abundance began to flow back to you.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
Wow.
Yep.
So it was just a test.
Yeah.
Just a test.
Yeah.
So where are you being tested right now?
I think it's still in the yeah, there it is. So one of the beautiful things about people like you and I, but I'll speak for me, is that I'm constantly blessed with a lot of ways in which I could peel the onion.
Mm-hmm.
And saying no to the good so I can say yes to the great is one of the most challenging things ever. There are opportunities knocking at my door constantly, and things that are like, hey, we're still here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ugh, I want to do that. But what does that take away from? Right? And so staying disciplined enough for the discipline to feel like blisscipline is one of my biggest challenges. And expanding the what's possible in my business is the other piece. Because Bridge, right? Bridge for 10 years has been Alexi and I. Well, now we have 23 apprentices.
Wow.
And they all are saying, I want to lead this in London. I want to lead this in Australia. I want to lead this here. I want to lead this there. And so I'm having to elevate to a different part of me that's not just the guy who owns the business but also bakes the pies, but the guy who owns the business, bakes the pies sometimes, but is teaching other people to bake the pies so that I can step fully out and it does what it does. Right?
So as you elevate, you talked about this separation and elevation, this dichotomy there. What are you struggling to separate from? Like, is it significance of leading the event? Is it delegation to others that aren't going to maybe be able to deliver it at the quality you were able to deliver it at? Like, there's got to be things you're wrestling with as you elevate.
It's time.
It's time.
Time. Because our kids, as you know, they'll take all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you ask me, so let's say you ask me, Preston, what's your goal? Like, dream goal. My dream goal is to be the soccer coach and the basketball coach and at every ballet practice or recital and just in the details of my kid's life in such a way that I'm like, not bored, but like they become the same level of holding it down that I do for clients and everybody else. I am in the full pocket with all of their lives. And right now, I would say I feel like I'm more at like 80%. but I want that to be 99, right? And so,
why not 100?
because they need space.
They need space.
They
Just
need
1%.
Yeah, they
just
need
a little bit.
They need space to just not have me right
Yeah.
there all the time, right?
Yeah.
And so, delegating and creating the thing that puts my family, not just my immediate family, but my mom and my sister in a position where they never have to work again, that's the place I'm going to. And right now I have a whole bunch of pieces on the board that equal millions. But I want maybe 1 to 2 pieces that equals 30 million.
Yeah.
Instead of 7 that equals 5.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. You want to go big on one thing.
Correct.
Not small on a bunch of things that equal big. You want to go huge on one thing.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I've wrestled with this notion of this addition bias, right?
Mm-hmm.
As we're scaling, as we're growing, we think the way to get more is to say yes. And then we look up and we have 7 opportunities on our plate.
Yes.
And they're all interesting, but they're not super compelling.
Yep.
But they're all successful, but they're not fulfilling. And so as you've done this, how have you learned to say no to stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like you have to.
Yeah. I mean, that's bottom line. Like even just the amount of podcasts that I get asked to be on.
I
It's
bet.
like, and I'm like, feel so like, I'm like, oh, that's such a good person. But it's like, okay, well, that hour and a half takes away from all this other stuff that you say matters to you. So no.
Yeah.
I think I've just gotten good at not letting things stick to me. Right? To observe but not absorb is one of my biggest practices. So I'm a bleeding heart, as you can tell, and so are you, right? Like some people just really love humans and are like, so like, oh.
How can I serve? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. How can I? Yeah, exactly. Right. So I used to say no and then be like, well, actually, maybe it's not a full no.
Yeah.
Maybe just reach out to me in 3 more months and then I will be a yes. And I like bend my no.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, hey, thank you so much. Like I genuinely appreciate that you would want me on your X, Y, and Z, or that you want me to help you with this thing. I am not available for that right now, but I just want you to know I think you're dope.
Yeah.
And then woof,
Let
clean,
it go.
right?
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah, bending your nose is huge in parenting too, right? Because even like the cookie, it's a no, and then the voice gets louder, and you're like, oh, the other kids. All right, fine, half of a cookie. How about half of a cookie, right?
Yes.
And so I think it's important that we don't bend our nose, but society almost teaches us to bend our nose
Facts.
with guilt and shame and social media when we do say no, and it's contrary to what others believe we should be doing with our time.
Facts. Another big piece for me right now is just hiring a bunch of pit bulls to stand in front of me
Yep.
and lovingly bark.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Nope. Get back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's a bigger piece. I have a buddy who we both know who leads relationship stuff, and he does his workshops, and he has like people whisk him in and out, and you can't really get to him. Right? We do our workshops, and people like every break, they're like, "Oh my God, you changed my life in 1942," and like they want to talk, and like learning to put barriers between us is something that I'm still working on too.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to be that barrier for someone that we both know and love dearly.
Yes.
And it's incredible from a responsibility perspective to be that gatekeeper, because there are people you want to let go through the gate. There are people that need to get through the gate. But most of the people that appear like they need to get through the gate should never be through the gate. And so now I'm actually in a similar position to you are, like where I'm hiring people to be my knowers, because I don't have the capacity or the capability to be a no because of my bleeding heart.
Correct.
I'm like, yeah, just reach out to me. I'll get on a call with you. And then I get on the call with them. I'm like, why did I ever agree to this call?
Yes.
And so now it's like, reach out to me. My team will handle it. I got fired from my calendar.
Yep.
And then my team now can say, sorry, he's unavailable. Like he can't do that. Or he can be on for 3 minutes and literally like it's 3 minutes and then they pop in and like, hey, you got to go to the next thing. Because I recognized in me, I didn't have the capacity to say no.
That's so good, dude.
Which is kind of sad.
That's so good.
It's kind of sad.
Yes.
It's kind of sad.
It's capacity yet, right? To say no to a lot, right? But it's also really cool. It's really cool. That's what, I mean, we're saying the same thing. That's why I'm hiring pit bulls to go out and just block because that has been a big thing, right? Even just through social media, it's 330,000 people on Instagram. Can you imagine how many of those people like, my boyfriend broke up with me. My cousin's dying of leukemia. Can you talk to him tomorrow or he's going to die? And I'm like, fuck.
You're like, yeah, I can talk to him. And then you get on the call and you're like, I'm sorry you were going to die anyway.
Yeah.
I'm here to talk. And I'm, you're like, why?
Yes. And just some people, I mean, everybody's going to die. And
unfortunately, we're all going to die.
That's one of those funny things too. I try not to open too many of my messages because if somebody sends me like a GoFundMe, it's so hard for me not to fucking, right?
Yeah. Just
during the LA fires, I funded probably 50 GoFundMes, bro.
Like, just because everybody sent them, you're like,
everybody.
I'm in. Yep, I'm in.
This is my cousin.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
My friend's German Shepherd lost his house.
Yeah.
Like, all right, here we go, right? And like I'm so abundant. I truly understand that money wants to flow.
Yeah.
Right. That I don't get necessarily that attached in that way, but there is a part of me that's like, bro, you need to just not do this every 4 seconds.
Yeah, I learned this concept from David, and I really embodied it. And he said that money is like water, and the more you allow it to flow through you, the more that it will flow to you. The problem with that theory is there are smart enough people in this world that will recognize that and take advantage of it.
Correct.
And all of a sudden, like, you just watch your money not flowing, but leaking out to these people or these things because they recognized that perspective and take advantage of it. And so what you're saying is you're building systems and processes to protect yourself and your family and the vision you have.
That every year I have a word that is my word. And this year it's obedience. And then the secondary word is systems. And I mean systems for everything. Because I'm a Leo, bleeding heart, artist kind of guy, I've gotten away just from talent and heart and like charisma and then just hiring a bunch of Virgos and nerds to do everything for me. But I want to do it for myself. And so I'm being really obedient, to the voice, right? The truth part of me says, don't eat the bacon, right? Am I going to be obedient to the truth of me, or am I going to be obedient to the part of me that's like, no, but let's get this bacon right now, right? And so I've been really honing in on that and just saying, okay, there's no time where I have been steered wrong, even in the worst times. To me, later that can see in hindsight, that was a setup. God used me and gifted me with that pain. Because now I coach from a different space. Now I lead from a different space. Right?
Yeah.
It's interesting, man.
And what you've done is you've built yourself as a brand. And what a lot of people don't understand is a brand is an asset. So like when people look at your balance sheet, they'll see a bunch of real estate, but they'll also see Preston Smiles, the brand. And at a moment, I think it was a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, you almost lost that asset, right? Lost access to that asset.
Yes.
Walk me through what you felt in that moment, because you went from 330,000 followers to I can't even get into my account and Facebook won't answer me, call me back, take my message. Like, what do I do?
That was wild and interesting because, I went through all the stages of grief. I was like, no. And then I'm like, okay, this is happening. And then I'm like, no, this isn't happening. Denial, no. Right? To then like, okay. All right. And what was cool was I think I waited like 6 days before I created another account. And then that one was up to like 7,000 pretty fast. But I also had a moment where I was like, what if I don't re-enter this? It was like, what what if I don't re-enter this?
Yeah.
And I just stick with podcast and YouTube or whatever the case may be. And what I learned, which is really cool, is when you make an impact on people, wherever you go, they will find you. Right? Yes, it'd be hard for 300,000 people to find me again. And once you've built it, right, just like you out here with these goats and chickens and everything else, to me, I look at all of what you're doing and I'm like, that would kill me. But for you, you're like, no, I've already done this. So now I've built in a course in my body that says I can do it again.
Right.
Right. When it comes to social media, when it comes to all that stuff, I'm like, I can do it again. Because the value is not necessarily in the amount of followers per se, but in the hearts that I have reached over time. And, you know, I say this in just jokingly sometimes, that if my audience were to get into a fight with Jay Shetty's audience, mine would win every single time, because mine really love me. Smaller, way smaller, but they love me. And we've been through some stuff together, and I show them my pain and my joy and my abundance. I show it all. While his, which is amazing, I think it's more like transactional. Right? I'll listen to that thing and I'll do that thing, but I don't care about that guy as a person.
Yeah.
Right? If we lost everything, I think between 10% of my following would help us build the whole thing back.
Right back.
Yeah. It's been cool.
I mean, and that's amazing, because when I look at social media and the gurus that exist on it today, I think most of them are the opposite. It's transactional. It's, I'm going to build this following, so when I come out with my book, you will buy my book, then I will get a New York Times bestseller, then I will do this, then I will do this. It's never about, here is what I am going to just give you. Because I've received it from somebody in my life, and it's my duty, my obligation to just give it to you as well.
Dude, nailed it. The beauty of my journey is I've been doing this before the word influencer existed.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that part of me that was like, this can be money, right? It was like, I got on social media and gave and gave and gave. I gave every day for 3 years, 3 times a day for 7 years.
Wow.
Before I had one single offer.
Wow.
3 times a day, 7 years before I had an offer. And the first offer I had was the Bridge Method online program. We dropped it on Easter Sunday. And that Monday, when I opened up my email, we had $50,000 worth of sales. And I was like, oh my God. My mind was boggled. Because I was making $36,000 a year at that time. And I was teaching surf lessons and doing all kind of other stuff, but I was still helping people. And I was loving on people and I was pouring into them. I just wasn't making any money.
Yeah.
And like, to watch the response of people go, oh yeah, reciprocity, bro. You've been giving to me for 7 years.
Right.
I'll buy whatever you put on this table.
Right.
Right. And it's kind of always been that way, man. And I think more people need to understand what you spoke to, which is, if you really care, and instead of seeing dollar signs, you see family and humans and brothers and aunties and uncles, and you understand that really gifting them with your gifts is it's participating in how do I say this? The love revolution that we came here to do, right? Like, all of us have our part. And I say this to my students all the time. It's not the load that breaks us down, but the way we carry the load.
Yeah.
And if we all carry it, if we all take our part of this table, it's light as hell.
Yeah.
Right? And what's my part? My part is the real estate. My part is the this. My part is the this. My part is the fantastic.
It's easy.
Right? You got that part. You got the crypto part. You got that part. But can you do it in love? Can you teach crypto with love? Can it not be transactional?
Yeah.
right? Oh, you got the polyamory part, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hilarious,
Yeah.
right? But okay, can you do that in such a way that it's not just transactional,
Right.
right?
Right. So when you went from this surf coach
Mm-hmm.
to launching the bridge experience,
Mm-hmm.
you go from making $36,000 a year to $50,000 in a day.
Mm-hmm.
What part of you had to change spiritually, emotionally, etc., to be willing to accept that 50,000 in your life? Because I believe we build these walls, these stories, these narratives of like, I'm not worthy of that money. I'm not worth that money. I don't have this opportunity. So who did you have to become on that journey in order to be able to accept that?
Yes, yes. You know, some of our biggest work is identity work. It just is what it is. Like, old personal development says your thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions, actions lead to results, right? But really, it's your programming and identity that leads to thoughts, which leads to feelings, which leads to actions, which leads to results. And it's not good results or bad results, it's just results, right? I have and still continue to work on the identity that there's enough for everybody. And that I'm not taking from anybody. I'm rather being a conduit. I'm a pit stop for the continuum of flow. Everything must circulate. A body of water without an inlet and an outlet is a swamp, and swamps carry disease. If I were to take any blood vessel and fold it and tie it up, my body wouldn't last for very long. My body needs flow. The air in this room must circulate. Everything is always moving, shifting, and changing and circulating. And I had to continuously work on the part of me that's like, the money needs pit stops. Why not me?
Yeah.
Right? And really started to, and I tell my students this all the time, one, we name our invisible opponent, right? Name the person you're competing with, because you can't disown that which you've never owned. So the moment I own, I'm doing this to prove to the bullies or my older brother who was the golden child. I'm going to get rich and prove that I'm better than my brother. I'm going to get rich and prove that, right? This is what we do.
Yep.
I'm going to get a hot wife because they said I was ugly. Right? That's an invisible opponent. And so some of my biggest work was just cutting the second cord, because one of my biggest opponents, invisible opponents, was my dad. Because my dad did drugs and cheated and lied and just checked out of life, there was no space for me to do so. And so by 13 years old, I said, okay, cool, I'll never be that dude. So he drops the ball, he gets scared, he runs away. Guess what I don't do? Right? I don't fold. I keep going. And so my dad was my invisible opponent. And, you know, the first cord, the first umbilical cord gives us life. The second one holds us back from it. And so all of us get to figure out who the invisible opponent is and start to cut that cord, break up with our parents, break up with the ideas of what society says we are and aren't, and receive our instructions. Because to me, again, I know some people, everybody has their different views about what God is, spirit is, all that. To me, God has never and will never stop speaking. And it uses each of us as divine snowflakes, unique emanations of the Most High, to gift and participate in this beautiful circulatory dance we have called life. And so my job as I clear and clean myself is to say, what next, Spirit? What you got for me? What path you got me taking this round? What am I doing in this lifetime? Oh, it's this side. Okay, let's go. Then we listen and we be obedient to the calling. That's why obedience is one of my words,
That's
right?
your word,
To be obedient to the calling. What would you have me do? What would you have me say? Who would you have me bless? I will do that. Done. And I will await further instruction, right? We get hit, we know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we just ignore it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's easier. It's easier to
Correct.
ignore it.
Correct.
Then we can stay in our own circles of justification and logic and
Yes.
reason. So as you navigate life, one of the things I admire most about you is you're always working on you.
Mm-hmm.
You're always working on you as a human, you as the husband, you as the father, you as the health fanatic and health freak. But at the same time, while we're always working on things, there's always an area of our life that I believe we're flirting with disaster.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're navigating this year with systems and obedience, where are you flirting with disaster today?
It's always relationship, bro. It's marriage. Like marriage is like you could be like 1 centimeter from the greatest pocket and 1 centimeter from disaster. And because most of us did not get these like super contained masculine dads who could open their hearts and be vulnerable, but also kill a cow. And, most of us didn't get that dad.
Right.
I didn't get that dad. I didn't see a dad do marriage well. I saw a dad blame and shame and run away. I didn't see it. I have no demonstration of that. So I'm piecing it together. So it's always for me this fine line and of learning to hold her heart, her nervous system, her pain, her conditioning, her programming, where she's amazing and where she's not so amazing, and just hold it all and love it all and still stay true to me. Right? A lot of guys come to me for coaching around all this stuff. I call myself the wife whisperer, right? Because literally, I have 4 clients right now. All of them, their relationships have come back from disaster. Right? I got a message from another client out of Canada 2 days ago, and he was like, "You saved my marriage."
Wow.
2 years later, bro, you saved my marriage. And I think a part of why I'm so good at helping men save their marriages is because I'm humble enough to know that mine could go at any point, right? And a few years ago, I did mess it up pretty bad. And the comeback that we've had, like, let me say this. I know I'm talking about it, but we're in such a good place. And our sex, our joy, our laughter, our routines, all of it is so much fuller. And I'm understanding what's needed for her to feel safe, right? Because the feminine, really all humans, but especially the feminine, is constantly checking: is this safe? Is this safe? Is he safe? Is he his word? Because if he's not his word here, which I can see,
Then he's not.
then he's not his word. He's not going to be his word all these places,
Right.
right? If he tells the world, "Hey, I'm doing this health journey," but he's eating Oreos every single night, you think I want to fuck that guy? You think I want to trust him? Absolutely not, right? And a lot of dudes are just rich. They just have money, but they don't know how to hold a woman. They don't know how to contain her in such a way that she opens like a flower. I didn't know how to do it. I've been working on it. I get help, right? I ask her. I've said this. I didn't make love to a woman until my wife. All the rest of it was sex. I didn't, because I was never in my heart. You can't make love to someone if you're not actually in your heart.
Right.
And some people, they're like, "Oh, what does that even mean?" They're so out of their bodies that they can only just feel their dicks. But like, it's different when you make love. It's different when you fill the whole room with energy, not just her. I'm breathing the whole room. That is sexy to a woman. And I think some of us just give up and go, "Oh, the money's enough. I provide." Nah, bro. There's a different level of providing. And that's what I work on.
But she's also having to show up too in the relationship. Like,
Correct.
you're asking for what you need finally. And it's not just a one-way street. It's not just you deliver,
Facts.
you deliver, you deliver.
Correct.
It's also you ask for what you need as well.
I do. 100%. And a lot of women, in my opinion, are wanting their partners to lead. A lot of dudes are just weak. And women are like the CEOs of the house. They run everything. They know the details of the ins and outs and this bar and this thing and all the things. And they just want a man to say, I got it. Sit back. I got you. Hey, go lay right there. I'm going to rub your head. I've already made you this food. X, Y, and Z. Right? And a lot of dudes just don't know how to do it. I was coaching this YPO group, and these guys have stupid money. You know one of them. And you could see where they were missing. And it's like, okay, you guys are you are the 1%ers on the planet.
Yeah, like the 1% of the 1%.
1%,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
You are brainiacs.
Yes.
With stupid amounts of money. But you don't know how to get to her. Like, for real. Right? And I think a lot of dudes, because they don't know how to get to their wives, and because they don't know how to get to their own hearts, they just watch porn. They do, or they work more. I'll just spend more time with money and work. That's where I get satisfied. Well, bro, that's a miss. It's a miss. And I'm telling you, it's been one of my greatest fulfillments is this one-on-one work that I'm doing with men behind the scenes, because I've messed it up so bad, I know exactly where to go, step by step, what's not occurring and how to make it occur, and how to make her feel so safe and happy that she just wants to like bang you and cook you food and like just like singing through the house.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. But you've been through the dark spots.
Very dark.
And the way you lead is, here is what I did. You should try this.
Yeah.
It's not, I have never done that, but let me act like I've done it.
Correct.
And then watch you go fail.
Correct. No, I only teach that way.
Yeah.
You will never catch me going through a list of stuff that I don't know.
Yeah.
It's either I've lived it, and not only have I lived it, I've coached hundreds of other people and watched them get these results and watch them go, oh my God. And then I'll go learn and get the science behind it and understand what's occurring. Right? I'm a nerd in that way. I like it.
And you're one of the most beautiful people I have met. And for people listening to this that now want to become one of the followers or join the Bridge experience or buy the book, like, where do they find Preston Smiles?
Yeah, man. Everything is at PrestonSmiles.com or at Preston Smiles on social media. The bridgemethod.org is our somatic nervous system based training. It is one of the best in the entire world. I highly suggest, if you want to move through some stuff and actually get embodied, because people go to seminars and they just learn a bunch of brainy stuff, which is awesome, right? There is a huge market and space for taking notes. People go to Tony Robbins and they dance and they have a good time, and that is awesome and important. People go to Joe Dispenza and they meditate and they feel good, and that is super important. Ours is a different scenario in that it's more like an escape room meets Spartan race meets ayahuasca ceremony meets you can't hide. So there's no note taking. It is confrontive and beautiful. And so anybody who's ready to go into the stuff that you don't want to go into, come see us.
Appreciate you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Great to know you.
Yeah, man. Likewise.